Boards at Waste Free Greenwich. I'm going to hand over now to Char Barnes, the president of the Garden Club of Old Greenwich, who will introduce our speaker. Char?
Hello. I just want to tell you a little about our club, and we have been a member of this community for over 100 years. Many of you know us from our green shirts that we wear when we're working on beautifying the village. In addition to our work caring for our beautiful town and the butterfly garden at the point, we have several outreach programs to share our love with the community. These include providing garden crafts and opportunities for our aging population, as well as children program right here at the Parrot, and Zoom talks like this one, which bring experts in their fields with a special emphasis on very local issues. If you'd like to support our efforts, you can visit our website at www.gardenog.org. And I'm very pleased to introduce Julie DesChamps. She is an environmental advocate, and although she started her career as an art conservator, Julie rediscovered a love for environmental conservation, and she's been dedicating the past decade to educate her community about waste reduction. Julie founded Waste Free Greenwich, a grassroots organization that aims to engage, educate, and empower Greenwich to waste less. Julie will let us know how Waste Free Greenwich is tackling different types of waste locally through various programs, and share some tips on how we can all cut waste in our own homes. So, Julie, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Char. And hopefully you can see my screen. Okay. Thank you, Char. Thank you, Judy. Good evening, and thank you to the Garden Club of Old Greenwich and Parrot Memorial Library for inviting me on behalf of Waste Free Greenwich. I'm Julie DesChamps, the founder chair. Today we'll discuss our mission and the challenges and impacts of our current waste management system. I'll highlight the zero waste solutions that our nonprofit is implementing in Greenwich and provide you a 10-point plan to reduce your waste at home. At the end, I'm happy to take questions. Figure out. There we go. Okay, so Waste Free Greenwich aims to engage, educate, and empower our community to waste less through the 6 R's. That's refuse, reduce, reuse, repair, recycle, and rot, providing solutions at home, school, and work. In 2015, Waste Free Greenwich was established when a team of dedicated volunteers set out to create a food scrap recycling program for our town. 2 years ago, we became a 501c3, a nonprofit entity, to amplify our mission. While we started with food scrap recycling, we recognized the need to broaden our work and are tackling a host of issues like plastic pollution, environmental justice, and more through our educational efforts and advocacy. So let's start from scratch. What does our system look like? Where does our trash go? And where does it end up? As Annie Leonard stated, there is no such thing as a way. When you throw something away, it must go somewhere. And that first somewhere is our transfer station, where waste is temporarily held and staged after it leaves our homes and businesses. In Greenwich, our transfer station is, of course, Holly Hill Resource Recovery Facility, in the western part of town, Chickahominy, and many of us know it very well. The nearly 80 million pounds of trash generated in Greenwich is trucked to Peekskill, New York, and burned at the Wynn Waste Westchester incinerator. The resulting ash is landfilled in Putnam in northeastern Connecticut. So our waste really crisscrosses 2 states at great cost to public health, the environment, and our wallets. Our waste system is at a critical point. The incinerators in Peekskill and throughout Connecticut are aging. All were constructed in the mid-'80s or early '90s, and they're well past their prime. For example, the contract for the Peekskill incinerator, which became operational in 1984, was extended until 2029, 4 years from now. When and if it is retired, it will be one of the oldest incinerators in the country at age 45. The average lifespan of these facilities is actually 23. Incinerators are expensive to maintain, risky to finance, and costly to upgrade. So much so that the Hartford incinerator, the largest of the 5 in Connecticut, was shut down in 2023. It was not cost effective to repair and upgrade anymore. So this is really an unsustainable system, and the result is that our state is experiencing a waste crisis. The remaining incinerators are at or close to practical capacity, and there's quite a gap between incinerator capacity and waste generated in the state. Connecticut's waste system is no longer self-sufficient. More and more of our trash, about 40%, is now exported out of state to Pennsylvania, Ohio, Virginia, and as far away as Alabama to be landfilled. But there's a problem with landfilling. It's estimated that our country has only 18 years of landfill capacity left. Let's not forget that landfills are a significant source of methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. So burying and burning our waste have negative impacts on the 3 Ps. That's people, planet, and pocketbooks. The costs of our waste management system are rising significantly, with estimated average tipping fees of municipal solid waste projected to increase exponentially. Tipping fees are these fees based on weight that a hauler pays to the town to tip their waste out of the truck at Holly Hill. They're passed on to customers, you and me. Already in Greenwich, fees have increased considerably from $112 to $119 per ton just in the last 2 years. But these fees don't incentivize waste reduction or save money in the long run. The town's costs for waste disposal are steadily increasing, costing nearly $4 million per year, as annual trash generation surpassed 40,000 tons or 80 million pounds. The second P is the planet. Although incinerators generate a little bit of energy, they are worse polluters than coal-fired power plants, and we know how polluting they are. They emit significantly more toxins, but they're grandfathered from air quality regulations generally. Burning waste leaves about 25% of its waste as ash, which contains high concentrations of dioxins, lead, mercury, and PCBs. Soil and water are also affected. For example, in 2018, nearly 500,000 tons of ash was buried in Putnam, an economically distressed environmental justice community, and plans to more than double the size of the landfill were recently approved, despite community objections, threatening nearby wetlands and a river that connects to the sound. The people of Peekskill are paying the price for our waste. It's not unusual in the US to cite polluting facilities in environmental justice communities. According to a New School study, 80% of incinerators are in low-income and communities of color, like Peekskill and Bridgeport. While it burns the trash of some of the wealthiest cities, Peekskill hosts the largest polluter in Westchester County, the Wynn Waste Incinerator. This is an environmental injustice. It is largely why they have the county's highest infant mortality rate and why their asthma ER visits are 4 times higher in the neighboring town of Somers. These residents who can afford it least are forced to bear the brunt of this pollution. The solution to our waste crisis and the injustices inherent in our waste system is to dramatically cut the amount of waste we produce. We cannot just recycle our way out of this problem, and burning and burying our trash is certainly not the solution, as we've just learned. Instead, we need to take a more holistic approach, a zero waste approach, focusing instead on the 6 R's. So refuse, that's saying no to non-essentials. I always ask my kids, do you want that or do you need that? Reduce, That's adopting a minimalist approach, using less in the first place. So like using both sides of your paper, having mugs instead of disposable cups. Reusing is really extending the life and use of an item, and library books are the ultimate example of reuse. Repairing is fixing or mending something instead of buying new. Imagine that. Recycling, that doesn't mean putting items into your blue bin alone. That material actually needs to be transformed into a new product and then purchased and used to close that loop. And of course, rotting or composting. So with the right laws, programs, and incentives in place, most of what is in Connecticut's waste stream can actually be eliminated. But we need to know what's in our trash to address our waste. So where is all this waste coming from? Well, one of the biggest culprits is wasted food, which makes up 22.3% of our waste stream in Connecticut. Let's talk about the impacts of all this wasted food. When we trash food, all the inputs and resources that go into getting food from farms to our fork are lost. That's money, water, land, and energy. Next, the hit to your wallet. That uneaten food costs the American family nearly $3,000 every single year. That's double earlier estimates. Nationally, we throw away a staggering $382 billion worth of food, accounting for 1.4% of our GDP. This is a financial drain we can no longer ignore. But the environmental toll is worse. If global food waste were a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter in the world, right behind China and the US, accounting for 8 to 10% of emissions globally. When food is buried, it decomposes and releases methane, a powerful greenhouse gas that accelerates climate change. And landfills are the third largest source of methane. We are also squandering our most precious resources when we waste food. We waste a quarter of our fresh water in the US producing food that's never eaten. That's more than 13 million Olympic-sized swimming pools a year. The equivalent of tossing 1 pound of beef is like running a shower for more than 6 hours. We would never do that. And to grow all that wasted food, we use 80 million acres of land. The unnecessary agricultural expansion is driving 70% of global biodiversity loss. The simple truth is we don't need more land to grow food. We need to waste less of what we already have. Finally, the social cost is our moral crisis. We waste hundreds of billions of dollars of food, while 1 in 7 Americans is food insecure, including 1 in 5 children. So while food composes over 22% of our waste stream, textiles make up about 6%. Together, that's almost a third of trash generated in Connecticut, and that's why Waste Free Greenwich has focused so much on diverting these two materials. Like wasted food, the current system for producing, distributing, and using clothing operates in an almost completely linear way and has a huge carbon footprint responsible, again, for 8 to 10% of global greenhouse gas emissions. The textile industry uses massive amounts of non-renewable resources, including oil to produce synthetic fibers. Yes, most of our clothing is now plastic. Fertilizers to grow cotton, and chemicals in manufacturing. Unsustainable fashion is aggravating climate change, land and biodiversity loss, pollution, and waste. Consumers are buying 60% more clothes and wearing them for half as long, discarding garments as fast as trends shift. Shockingly, it's estimated that more than half of fast fashion produced is disposed in under a year. The Ellen MacArthur Foundation determined that a truckload of discarded textiles is dumped in landfill or incinerated every single second. This unwanted clothing often ends up in low-income countries that lack waste management infrastructure, or in communities like ours, it's landfilled or burned. To alleviate the pressure on our natural resources, curtail pollution, and protect our environment and ecosystems, a zero-waste approach that includes repair, resale, rental, or remaking is necessary. So let's see how Waste Free Greenwich is fighting food and textile waste in our community. Much of our energies are devoted to educational programming and community outreach for residents, and here's a little sampling of our work. Waste Free Greenwich has organized documentary screenings and panel discussions about food waste, plastic pollution, environmental justice, and related topics. We've welcomed the opportunity to present to local organizations from libraries, the Junior League, to the schools and condo associations. Waste Free Greenwich has teamed up with local libraries for author talks and cooking demos, and I just want to share a few of these books that authors have come to talk to us. This is Lindsay Jean Hard's Cooking with Scraps that I love. 2 years ago, we had Tamar Adler showcasing her Everlasting Meal Cookbook at the Perrott, which is just an amazing compendium of every single kind of food and how to put it to use. And then we also had an event with Terry Walters, and her book Nourish has a section about fermentation that I highly recommend. She was just one of the featured chefs at our Zero Waste dinner 2 weeks ago. Our signature event is the Rethink Waste Fair in April. That's Earth Month, of course. The fair brings together local vendors and community partners and features goods, activities, and exhibits, as well as a recycling and donation drive that supports sustainable and waste-free living. It coincides with the Greenwich Sustainability Committee's Sustainability Awards and the first Selectman's Earth Day proclamation. We have been joined by Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection in celebration of Food Prevention Week. Highlights included an incredible fashion show with designs upcycled from surgical wrappings and created by the OR nurses from Greenwich Hospital. That was a real treat, and you can see one of the creations at bottom right. This year, courtesy of Greenwich Academy, we welcomed the reused box truck, which is a little house and educational center made almost entirely from upcycled, donated, and reused materials. And don't miss the fun and exploration this year. So mark your calendars for Saturday, April 18th, and stay tuned for more details. Next month, we'll be holding a mini drive in partnership with Round Hill Community Church on November 16th for the collection of hard-to-recycle materials like batteries, textiles, stuffed animals, and more for recycling, as well as pumpkins for composting. There'll also be a drive for winter coats for person-to-person and trial-sized toiletries for a New Covenant House. Visit our website and sign up for our newsletter to receive more details. 2 weeks ago, we hosted our first fundraiser, our Zero Waste Dinner, which was an evening of all taste, no waste, where gourmet dining met sustainable innovation. Each dish showcased surplus or reimagined ingredients that would have otherwise been discarded. Top chefs faced off in a toss cooking competition, turning those scrappy ingredients into culinary masterpieces. From the menu and the serviceware to table decor, every single detail of the dinner was meticulously designed to reduce waste and encourage those sustainable habits. In addition to events like the Rethink Waste Fair and our Zero Waste Dinner, our organization has promoted the reduction of food waste through our programming to prevent food waste from occurring in the first place. The Greenwich Conservation Commission and Waste Free Greenwich teamed up with Save the Food, which is a public service announcement campaign to increase awareness about food waste and how to prevent it. We use personalized assets and tips and tools at our events on social media to encourage residents to prevent food waste in the first place. And we just applied for a grant to launch a broader townwide campaign in the near future. Not only does Waste Free Greenwich aim to prevent household waste and alleviate food insecurity, we have been instrumental in diverting food waste through recycling and backyard composting initiatives. In June of 2020, we worked with the Town of Greenwich to launch a food scrap recycling program. Residents separate and collect accepted organic material at home and drop it off voluntarily. We just celebrated the 5-year anniversary of the program with a proclamation by our first Selectman for Stop Food Waste Day. To date, residents have diverted over 700,000 pounds of food scraps from the waste stream. An estimated 8 to 10% of Greenwich households participate in the program, and there are 3 drop-off sites in town at Holly Hill, at the Round Hill Community Church, and at Living Hope Community Church in Old Greenwich, which occurs during the farmers market, which sadly ended today, but we're also there off season all year long. An organics hauler, curbside compost, transports the organics to New Milford Farms to be processed into compost. Waste Free Greenwich sponsors a compost give back day in spring for our supporters, bringing that process really full circle. This spring, the Town of Greenwich was awarded a competitive materials management infrastructure grant from the state for the purchase of 3 food scrap drop-off bins, which you can see examples of here. They are secure, fully enclosed units for food scrap collection that offer controlled 24/7 drop-off access. As with the current program, residents source, separate, and collect food scraps and other organic materials at home. That collected material is brought to one of the drop-off stations, which will be located in Binney Park and Cos Cob Park, and deposited into the unit. Register users download a free app, which enables them to locate available units and unlock them. And we're hoping to launch the program in just a few months to increase tonnages and participation and make food scrap recycling easy and accessible to all residents. We are also really lucky to have a master compost on our team, Britta Kalkos, and hosts workshops on backyard composting for houses of worship, schools, and residents. Recently, Waste Free Greenwich has partnered with the Greenwich Botanical Center to offer a series of family and adult educational programs. We just hosted a workshop for beginners, and we'll schedule more throughout the year. In 2020, our close partner, Greenwich Recycling Advisory Board, started a textile recycling program for the town to raise funds for recycling education, and has since partnered with HelpSee, a certified B Corp and public benefit corporation. This vetting process to become a B Corp and public benefit corporation really gives us insurance that they're doing a good job and doing what they should be doing, and that material is ending up where it should be. Waste Free Greenwich supports the program through publicity and the creation of educational resources. The program diverted over 380,000 pounds of clothing, shoes, linens, and more from the waste stream, and raised thousands of dollars for education initiatives, including our Waste Wizard, tax inserts, and public school resources. HelpSee offers a new at-home pickup option for Greenwich residents, which makes recycling your clothing and shoes and other materials super, super easy. There's also 4 convenient drop points throughout town that you can see listed here at Holly Hill and Cos Cob, Arch Street, and Nathaniel Witherell. At Greenwich Public Schools, Waste Free Greenwich, along with the PTA Council Green Schools Committee and the Facilities Department, has developed and implemented a zero waste schools program to reduce cafeteria waste through a host of strategies. First, we introduced new bilingual signage and sorting stations with bins for liquid collection, recycling, and trash, as well as an area for tray stacking. We designed an educational curriculum with a professional video, sorting video game, a worm encounter, and interactive games, as well as in-class resources. To combat food waste and address student hunger, our schools are employing two key practices, share tables and external food donation. Share tables allow students to return whole, unopened food items from food services in compliance with health codes, making those items available for consumption by other children who may want additional servings, thereby addressing food insecurity and cutting waste. Furthermore, external food donation is being successfully implemented as demonstrated by Old Greenwich School, which partners with Food Rescue US Fairfield County to regularly donate surplus food. Parent volunteers transport the collected food to organizations like the Boys and Girls Club in Stamford, ensuring high quality, usable meals and snacks reach that community. We've established a food scrap recycling program for organics that can't be donated or prevented in 7 elementary schools at Greenwich Public Schools. The students separate their food and napkins into green bins, which a contracted hauler then transport to Quantum Biopower, which is an anaerobic digester in Southington. There it's processed into energy and a nutrient-rich material called biodigestate. Compost is then delivered to the school gardens, and that really completes that circle. Through these efforts, we've reduced trash in the district cafeterias by an average of 75%. Instead of 6 bags of trash in one day, now only 1 is generated. It's really made a huge difference. Workplace waste is a significant issue in Greenwich, and we've tried several strategies to address it. One of the more successful initiatives is the Shell Recycling Program, which is run by the Collective Oyster Recycling and Restoration, or CORE. You may have seen the recent article in the New York Times about them, which was excellent. Waste Free Greenwich, along with the Greenwich Shellfish Commission and Greenwich Conservation Commission, teamed up with CORE to launch the program, helping with recruiting and publicity. 9 local restaurants and clubs now separate their shell to divert them from the waste stream back into the Long Island Sound to restore native oyster habitat and improve water quality. This last season, there were also shell collection area was placed at Greenwich Point for residents to recycle shell. And since November of 2023, CORE has recycled more than 16,000 pounds of shell from our community. The big news, the commercial organics recycling law went into effect on January 1st, 2025. This means that our largest food generators, those dumping over 26 tons of food a year, now have to separate and recycle their scraps. We've been very busy making sure Greenwich businesses are ready. Waste Free Greenwich partnered with the Department of Public Works, the Conservation Department, and Food Rescue US Fairfield County to get the word out to these big players like grocery stores, hotels, and healthcare facilities, as well as country clubs. Over the last year, we've built a database of potential large generators and a dedicated website landing page. We launched an aggressive outreach campaign with letters, webinar, phone calls, and we co-hosted a Waste Less Day with the Center for Ecotechnology to offer businesses free technical support to comply with the new law. So these are just some of the ways that Waste Free Greenwich is working at home, at schools, and at work towards zero waste. But let's explore how you can join the movement. individual efforts do make a big difference. So we wanted to arm you with a 10-point plan to put into action at your houses. The first 5 are related to preventing food waste in the first place, dubbed the Food Waste 5 by ReFed, which is a national leader in this space. So first, planning ahead. Don't buy groceries without thinking ahead a few days or a week to consider what you'll be eating. Learn the labels, so those best if used by, sell by, or expires on labels that we see on our foods are pretty confusing. And for the most part, they're not about safety. They're more about quality. So it's really best to use your senses to determine if a food is truly good or not. Your nose knows. Eating down is our third one. As you're planning ahead for what you'll be eating all week, plan a day to eat down. All the leftovers and all that excess food collecting in your fridge, way in the back that you forgot about. You could make a Waste Less Wednesday or a Fridge Friday, clearing out all that food, creating a smorgasbord on your countertop and eating it all up. You can create meals to incorporate lots of ingredients like soups, smoothies, bowls, stir fries. Again, those books by Lindsay Jean Hard and Tamara Adler are very, very helpful. And the web is just full of so many great resources. So look up that ingredient that you're trying to use up. Use your freezer. Your freezer is like a magic pause button to keep food fresh longer. Freezing food is really a great way to extend its life. And I just bought my favorite cookies at the last day at the farmer's market, and I put them in a silicone bag and stuck them in the freezer so I can enjoy them for the next few months. Also, storing your food properly. Different foods need to be stored differently, and they'll last a lot longer if they are stored right. Save the Food has some really great seasonal storage guides for produce. You can see the fall and winter produce one here. And I just saw a really great TED Talk by a behavioralist psychologist, Jiajing Zhao, who suggested to feng shui your fridge, really making those perishables more visible and enticing. So you can kind of see her before is on top and after is on the bottom. And she's moved all her condiments from the doors, and she's put in the more perishable items like produce and her dairy, so that when you open the fridge, you can see it right away, and eat it right away so it doesn't go bad. Generally that's not where you're supposed to store things, but I think she has a really great idea, and I'm gonna this week try it out in my own fridge. This is also a really terrific book. It's called Waste Free Kitchen Handbook by Dana Gunders, who's the head of ReFed, and she's actually a Greenwich native, and it's just a Bible for me. And when I get stuck and don't know where things go or how to store things, I always look at this. So I highly suggest that book. Number 6, anything that can't be prevented or donated, please compost. Use the town's food scrap recycling program or compost in your own backyard. The next tip is to practice conscious consumerism, which is particularly important this time of year with the holidays just around the corner. That's the time when we produce 25% more trash. 25%, that's a lot. So conscious consumerism involves making more thoughtful shopping decisions, often with the goal of consuming less, prioritizing sustainability, and creating less waste. And we see this hierarchy of needs, which I love. You notice that buying is way at the top. That's really the last resort. There's a lot of strategies to tap before heading off to purchase something new. Look around you, use what you have first, borrow or swap with friends and family, Tonight I'm wearing a top of my mother's. That's probably about 20 years old, but I love it. Buy a secondhand, especially clothing. If you have time and creativity, you can make something. To practice conscious consumerism, consider swapping out single-use disposable items for more sustainable options. Think about packaging when you're buying an item. Purchase items with no or less packaging and recycled content. And my example here is my Who Gives a Crap toilet paper. It's made from 100% recycled paper. It comes in paper wrapping rather than plastic, and a cardboard box. So, you know, there's products that are out there that are much more sustainable, have better packaging, and just keep that in mind when you go to the store. And also I wanted to share a few sustainable swaps. This is a really great way to reduce your waste, and I'm going to just point out a few of my favorites in the kitchen and in the bathroom. So starting with the kitchen, containers to, you know, store your items. I love a good mason jar. These are wax wraps that I use instead of saran wrap. I haven't bought saran wrap in years and years and years, and these work great. These are silicone bags, and you can use them instead of disposable plastic Ziplocs. Of course, you can use a fabric napkin instead of paper napkins. That really will reduce your waste, even though we will take the paper napkins in the composting program. And of course, your reusable water bottle in the bathroom. And if you're shopping, this is my favorite. It's my 4-in-1 bags, reusable grocery bags. And I tuck this in. This is for produce, my reusable produce bags instead of plastic. See, in the bathroom, I have these are reusable wipes that I throw in the washing machine. I use them to remove my makeup. And then this is my all-time favorite is my silk dental floss that comes in a reusable glass container, and I just pop in the refills. You might not know that a lot of dental floss contains PFAS. It's really not that good for you. And this is actually compostable because it's silk. I also love there's conditioner and shampoo bars out there. This is made by Dip, and it just looks like a bar soap. And this is my conditioner. So there's all sorts of options that you can reduce your use of plastic and disposable containers. You know, they're becoming more and more popular, and you're going to see them more and more often. If you have your eyes out for them, and you can see in this graphic, there's some really wonderful ideas there too. It's also really important to recycle right, and not to wish cycle. Wish cycling is putting items into the recycling bin with a hopeful but mistaken belief that they're recyclable when they're not. We're all guilty of it, but you know, try and do your best not to wish cycle. It will make you feel good, but it actually contaminates the recycling and creates problems upstream. So what we always say to the kids in the cafeteria, if in doubt, throw it out. But even better, we have a free tool. It's called the Waste Wizard that can help you out with this. Residents input a material into the search field, and the Waste Wizard will instruct you which bin to put it in, the locations, where to donate, recycle, and repair. There's notes on, you know, materials toxicity or issues with recyclability, or sometimes we even have an alert about upcoming events. It's all customized for Greenwich. There is a state one too, but it's this one will be really tailored to what's available locally and what our rules are. The tool is offered in English, Spanish, and Japanese. and it's available on multiple websites to increase accessibilities in our community. That's on Greenwich Public Works, Greenwich Green and Clean, and of course, Waste Free Greenwich. And our last of the 10 is to learn, continuing ed. So you can join us, actually the Conservation Commission and Parat Library on November 3rd. That's this Monday. They are hosting an environmental book group discussion, the Waste Wars by Alexander Tapp. This is an eye-opening investigative expose into the multi-billion-dollar global trade, garbage trade, revealing how the waste of wealthy nations is routinely and often illegally offloaded onto developing countries in the global south. You have a few days to read it. It's really an engaging read, and I highly recommend it and hope to see you on Monday. Again, November 16th on the Sunday at Round Hill Community Church, we're hosting our Reduce, Reuse, and Recycle Drive. Please join us. You can look at our website for more details. And stay tuned, because we always have a Merry, Bright, and Waste-Free holiday webinar with Green Schools Committee at Greenwich Public Schools and the Conservation Commission. So more details will be released soon. You can follow us on social media, on Instagram and Facebook. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We have a newly updated website, wastefreegreenwich.org, and you can sign up for our weekly newsletter where we give all sorts of tips, like the latest news, any events that we're having, and just our programs in general. So thank you so much. I'd love to hear your questions. And I'm going to turn it over to Shar and Judy.
Okay, we have one question. Now you can ask questions using the chat feature, which if you click on chat, or it's often on the right side of your page. One question that we have got is, can you tell us the brand of the shampoo and condition for the recommended?
Yeah, of course. This is DIP.
Dip.
DIP, yep.
Mhm.
And this is the conditioner. And there's Eco Evolution is probably the closest like low and no waste
Mhm.
store. It's in South Norwalk. I was just there the other day.
Okay.
I think that is definitely the closest one, but
Mhm.
you might be able to find other shampoo and conditioning bars out there, and
Okay.
online, of course.
Yeah. So it'd be great to not have to throw out those bottles all the time too.
Exactly.
It does seem ridiculous when you do it.
Yeah.
I have a question. What do you think is the most, when somebody starts to really think about their waste and start to do some of these things, what do you think are really gratifying things that people do? Things that give them a lot of satisfaction, or that they just had no idea you could do before?
I really think food scrap recycling, like when
Mhm.
we man the drop off on Wednesdays, every Wednesday afternoon, and I'm always shocked. Everybody's in a great mood when they drop off their food scraps, and they always comment like, "There's nothing in my trash anymore. Like 50% of it is gone." Thank you so much for hosting this, and we just get such great feedback from that program. I think it's, opened a lot of people's eyes. And
Mhm.
when you're collecting your food scraps, you say, oh my gosh, why did I buy so much broccoli? Or why didn't I use this right away? Like my
Mhm.
cantaloupe went bad so fast. Or, I think it really makes you conscious of how much you're buying, and what you're not eating, what you're not putting in the freezer. It really can change your habits.
Okay. Yeah, I always feel personally guilty whenever I have to throw out a moldy strawberry too. And it's like,
Yeah.
what a waste. We have
It's
another
true.
question that you mentioned a lot of ways to help the environment. And as a high schooler, Lucas would like to know, what is the most effective thing you think he could do?
I think, especially for teens and students, just be conscious of what you're buying. I know in our house, my daughters get a lot of takeout, and that's all, you're throwing away so many cups, so many plates, so many containers. You know, definitely bring your own water bottle for
Mhm.
sure. You'll really cut down on, the cups that you're throwing away. Um, if you can bring your own container, that's great. So some stores will do that for you and some won't. Or, make stuff at home.
Mhm.
Learn how to cook. That's an amazing skill that you'll have throughout your life, and you'll really cut down on waste, and it's healthier habit too.
Yeah, not to mention saves some money too.
Yes,
I'm a huge fan.
absolutely.
I'm a huge fan of coffee thermoses because a lot of places will fill those up for you too, and it's so much nicer than drinking out of a paper cup too. So
It really is.
yeah, we have another one. What is considered food scraps? Veggie only, meat, or cooked food? I'm curious about that too.
Yeah, that's a great question. It depends what system you're using. So for the municipal food scrap recycling program, they will take any kind of food. So
Mhm.
that could be meat, dairy, bones, shells. We'll even take napkins, small house plants, cut flowers, a lot of organic material you can take out of your waste stream. And I don't think I said napkins, as long as they don't have chemicals on them. It's just like you're wiping your face and you can put the napkin in, or paper towels, same thing. So really any kind of food. But if you have a backyard composting system, then it's really produce.
Mhm.
If you add meat or dairy in there, you are going to get all sorts of pests that you don't want in your compost pile. Um, so really stick to fresh fruits and vegetables in there.
Okay, and also all the offcuts for corn and things like that,
Exactly.
napkins and stuff.
Yep.
So there's a lot of that. Uh, okay, somebody, Jessica would like to know, where did you, oh, good tips. Where did you say you could find good tips on proper food storage?
So our website has a link to Save the Food. Save the Food has all sorts of great resources, tools, and tips. And they actually have like a storage. I forget. I'm blanking out on the word. Like a storage guide that you
Okay,
can type in what you want to store, and it'll show you how to store it correctly.
okay. Uh, Nathan says that if you wanted to focus on buying more eco-friendly products, what places around town are best for that?
That's a tough one. You can, you have to really look. Um,
Mhm.
Grocery stores, I'm always surprised sometimes what you can find there. Storage containers, packaging that isn't, so wrapped in plastic.
Mhm.
But you have to make an effort for sure. I found that Target has really upped its game on the
Mhm.
kind of products that they sell, and, being more mindful about packaging, offering like refillable things, especially cleaning supplies. Um, but it's challenging. It's
Yeah.
challenging. I think we're moving in the right direction, but slowly. And
Mhm.
consumer demand drives it all. So if you write to these companies and say, I want to see more sustainable products, if you're buying those products, really, vote with your wallet. It makes a big difference. These companies run on profits, and if they want to see their sustainable products sell. So
Okay.
you need buyers.
No, definitely, definitely. Also, I mean, I personally, I find it that you do have to look at the packaging. You have to go beyond just what they say that it's eco-friendly. It's like, what exactly does that mean? Because
It,
it's a nice sales point too.
that's so
Okay.
true. And I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of greenwashing out there. And I
Hmm.
see like a lot of restaurants in town, they think that they're packaging things in compostable containers,
Yeah.
but those compostable containers aren't accepted in our food scrap recycling program. And there cannot be recycled. They need to go in the trash. So,
Hmm.
you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword where yes, they're not made from petroleum, which is
Mhm.
positive. They're not plastic, but they can't be recycled. They can't be composted, and they do add to our waste stream. So that's like one of the biggest, I think, challenges is,
Mhm.
planning a party where you may not have 50 plates or
Right.
25 glasses, but you don't want to have disposable wares. Like, what do you do? And that's where, calling your neighbor or calling a friend and saying, can I borrow, 10 glasses? And,
Right.
there was just an article in the New York Times about setting your table by thrifting, thrifting
Mhm.
dishes and thrifting silverware and making a
Yeah.
really cool
You could do really creative things with
tablescape.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
really wonderful
absolutely.
things. So,
Absolutely. And at our waste-free dinner,
mhm.
we had people donate wine glasses. We made napkins from fabric samples. We borrowed
Mhm.
napkins. We had people donate utensils to us. So we really tried to show that this is possible, this kind of secondhand donation, um, creating an event around, not buying new and trying to
Mhm.
really reduce our waste.
Okay, there is a, oops. Uh, Quinn wants to know, just curious, what's the most rewarding project your team has done for the community? And if it is the food scrap, do you have a second choice?
Um, yeah. Well, I would say it's the food scrap recycling
Mhm.
program. Um, but um, let's see. I think like all our educational outreach has been very rewarding and bringing
Mhm.
in, speakers and um, all these authors and environmental advocates, chefs. I think it's been like a lot of fun to open people's eyes and hear their ideas and their experiences. That's been great. Our zero waste dinner was just really spectacular and
Mhm.
very rewarding. And I think everybody there had a great time and learned a lot. So that was a great outreach opportunity for us.
Uh, are there comparable townwide programs in other Fairfield County towns?
There are, and when we started the food scrap recycling program, we relied heavily on
Mhm.
Scarsdale, New York, and Darien. They were like one of the two municipalities that had started a program early on, and they were absolutely wonderful and have helped us out. And we paid it forward, and we get
Mhm.
calls a lot from other municipalities that are starting programs and try and do our best to help and support them too. So it would be nice, if there was more of a centralized state, like statewide support
Mhm.
for municipalities that are trying to start these programs, and not just around food scraps, but other ways
Right.
to um, divert things from our waste stream. But we're not really set up that way.
Mhm.
We don't have county government so much,
That's right. Okay.
so
Okay, that's really interesting. The Scarsdale connection, so it's definitely a very big area-wide thing. So that's
yeah.
great. Okay. Karen is basically saying the consumer demand and Heinz bottles and the plastic ones went from 1 to 2 instead of number 7 with the little recycling uh, circle of arrows or triangle of arrows. Does all plastic from 1 to 7 get recycled or possible to recycle?
So, yes, those are called resin codes, but
Mm-hmm.
you can't really go by the resin code to determine what's recyclable and what's not. Um, within those resin codes, there's like very different materials, and the
Mm-hmm.
recyclability really um, is pretty varied.
Mm-hmm.
So it's better to more go by type.
Okay.
And
so
and look at the Waste Wizard. It
Okay.
really that should be a good guide for you. And if there's also a query on there. If something's not available in the Waste Wizard, it'll come to us and we can follow up and try and figure out what's recyclable and what's not.
Okay, so if it's a resin code, does that mean it's basically what type of plastic it is and not what you can do with it, or?
Yeah, because and what is also very confusing about recycling is that, you know, every region, every municipality has their own recycling rules. So if you've been in an area and moved to another area, their recycling rules are going to be different, and it's all based on what locally, you know, at their what's called a MRF, a recycling center, they're able to bundle up and sell. You know, it's all about what the recycling market and what's sellable, the commodities market.
Okay. Daniel asked, aside from recycling, out of all the methods of limiting your waste, what do you use? What is your favorite method?
Probably food scrap recycling,
It's a food.
but it's also really fun to find new products that don't
Right.
generate as much waste. I, you know, you can see from my swaps that I really enjoy that. Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Phyllis says, can use volunteers for outreach to large users. I'm not quite sure what they're referring to, but for the outreach, well, you're doing a lot of outreach, aren't you? I mean, obviously this is outreach, and you had the dinner and you have all those things coming forward. So, you know, it's really great. And it's always wonderful to see you guys at the soon to come back farmers market.
Yeah.
So that's really great. If there are any other questions, just keep writing them down and I can answer. Can I give a little personal thing about yard waste, which you said was a very large portion? I am a gardener and I do compost, but I compost food waste, but most of my compost, like 95% of it, is yard waste. And it's just great. It's like everything that comes out of the ground goes into yard waste, and it has all the nutrients that were necessary to grow it. So it puts it back in there. And also, if you want to do vegetable gardens, or you want to do your vegetable scraps, it reduces the number of flies if you mix it in with a huge volume, and it really smells good. I mean, people are always kind of afraid it's going to be putrid smelling, but it's really wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to have that right mix of greens and browns, and we can help you with that through our workshops with Greenwich Botanical Center too.
Right. Is paper and cardboard the most valuable recycled material to businesses?
I would say so. That's definitely up there. You know, metals too. Aluminum is infinitely recyclable. It's which is great because getting a virgin material is very harmful to the environment, harmful to the workers. Bauxite mining is really horrible. So if you know you can recycle as much metal as possible, that's really positive. And just a note about our bottle bill. So you might have noticed that, you know, when you buy a beverage, they take oftentimes 10%, 10 cents off of it, and you can return it at the reverse vending machines at local grocery stores and some CVS's, Walgreens. And really, you do want your money back, but it's also that method of recycling creates a much cleaner product, and that material is much easier to sell because it's so much cleaner. It's not contaminated. So I would encourage you to do that.
If you have a Coke bottle and you just put it into your blue bin, is it a kind of similar process? Do they separate it and send it to the same place, or does it just go on something more complicated?
So our recycling, it'll first go to Holly Hill, and then it'll go to Stamford to the Wind Waste, what's called a MRF, the recycling center. And there they have very sophisticated technology equipment that separates all the types of materials and bundles it. They have incredible like magnets and blowers, and you know they mechanically separate things by hand. It's a really interesting process with a lot of pretty advanced technology. So our materials are actually separated, they are actually recycled, they're bundled up, and then they're sold. So it's a business, you know, they want to sell these materials and they want as little contamination as possible. You know, putting in plastic, please don't bag your recyclables. Like when you bag it, those plastic bags get stuck in the machinery. They actually have to shut down the process several times a day. Workers have to climb up into that equipment and pull it out. It's extremely dangerous. It's expensive and it's time consuming. So don't bag your recyclables. They should all be loose in there. Also, like things like hoses, hangers. Keep those out of the recycling. Those, you know, you can put hangers in the scrap metal at Holly Hill. Hoses should go in the trash. The same thing. They're tanglers. They get stuck in the equipment. We don't want that in there.
Okay, and somebody mentioned too that only 10 states have deposits on bottles and cans. What about the other 40? Any plans?
I hope so, because it really increases the rate of recycling, and you know it's a extra income for those people who really could use it. So it's extremely positive. It really increases our recycling rates and makes the recycling a lot cleaner.
And somebody did comment that you can return hangers to the dry cleaners. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
lots of lovely thank yous to you for this.
Oh, great. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate that.
So, you know, I think we'll gave us a lot to think about, and this has been really great. So thank you so much for coming and speaking to us about this.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, and happy recycling and reducing.
Yes.
Reducing, right? That's the first one? Reduce. Okay.
Thank you, Char. Thank you, Julie and Char, very much.
Thank
Thank you,
Julie.
everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night.